Hello, and welcome to another game development broadcast for Project CSK. As usual, of course, I'm the creator of the project, and the online name that I go by is Des. We're going to continue working on the project like I have been doing for quite a while now, and the focus has been to basically get it to be a playable alpha. Done a lot of functionality stuff previous to this, did some pixel art, and some other UI stuff, of course, for navigation, for various input types and whatnot, like gamepad, keyboard and mouse, and touchscreen, of course, because the idea is to be cross-platform compliant, right? So now we're at the point where I really want to make it be playable. But what does playable mean, though? Playable can mean a lot of different things. I don't mean in the way that it's going to be polished. There's still a lot of artwork, even UI, that's currently missing. There's core functionality that's missing. But playable in the way that I can do a build for either Windows or mobile, Android device or whatever, and have it be so that you can log in, right? You can navigate correctly. You can go into the lobby, right? Either chat with someone that's in the lobby, or create a game room and join that game room, or someone else can create the game room and you can join that game room and be able to play within the game room. That's kind of what I mean by playable at this current phase of it, right? Of course, the other stuff will come much later, like, for example, the world, the pets, the combat system, the dynamic dungeon generator, the savior system, the other quests, the all kinds of other functionality that will be coming in later on. But for right now, need to focus on just specific key parts of it. And if you're here for the last broadcast, that's great. If you missed it, you're welcome to go back on YouTube and skim through whatever parts that you like until you're caught up. So right now, to kind of recap a little bit on what I was doing last time, I was having some challenges. Oh, I do this all the time, right? So I was having challenges with the UI. And I would say a big part of it was because I just wasn't thinking clearly. By the end of the day, usually when I'm broadcasting, like around this time, I'm pretty tired, right? Like I've had a full day. Right? I've had a full 12-hour day, get up in the morning, do the stuff that you need to do, go to work, your 9 to 5 kind of job, and then afterward, eat, shower, and whatever. And then that's basically my broadcast time, right? So it's understandable, of course. Logical fatigue is a real thing, right? And that's something that absolutely we all need to consider when doing anything of this sort. But for me, what was happening in the last broadcast is exactly that, right? And I was unable to solve things like I usually do. But then afterward, of course, when I was well rested, was it next day or day after? I don't remember. But after I was well rested and whatnot, the solutions just came so much easier. It's so much easier. But at the time, of course, I was having challenges with solving some things, but I have addressed those and then moved on a little bit past that to the point where I started slowly building out the level. The level meaning the level information that's provided from the server, right? That the server dynamically generates for the individual game room. So let's have a look at that and see what does that look like. Are we on the right screen? Yes, we are. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and play this. All right, so one of the things I was having challenges with is the raycast. Raycasting in 3D is honestly not that difficult, but I was having challenges with it regardless. And right now you can see that it does cast correctly and it is in the correct angle, meaning the angle of the camera. And it's a really simple solution too, is that you just use the mouse position, you get the screen position, and then you convert screen to world position through the camera, and then you still have an X and Y, right? But you don't have the angle, right? And the angle comes from the camera. You go to the camera, you go through the camera, through the transform, and look at its transform position. And then from there, you just say forward, because from the camera point of view, forward means whatever angle the camera is facing, right? Whereas before, I was going forward based on screen view, based on just global position view. And of course, it would shoot forward on the Y position. So it just wasn't making sense to me. And it didn't click in, of course, until sometime later when I was off stream, of course. And you just want to go forward from the camera point of view, right? That's what gives you this nice perfect angle of whatever the camera point of view is. And with that, of course, now the controls are working exactly as intended, but they don't do anything yet, right? We're going to get to that a little bit later, and we'll definitely get there. But you can see, so this is just a test level, right? I did add in a little bit of, I brought in the prefabs and the artwork, the pixel art that I had previously done. So that's why I'm able to generate this. This is just coded. I just said basically put this here, put that there, put this here kind of thing. Still need to build it out, but it's starting to take shape. But what I'm interested in is the information that comes from the server that we get on, and when a new round is generated. I'm not going to get into the object pool system at this time, I don't think. That'll be something for later on. But for right now, what I want to do is so have a look at the code, basically pick up from where I was before when I was last working on it, and then continue from that point, wherever it was, because I vaguely remember where it was, but I don't remember exactly where it was. And that's where we're going to be continuing from. Okay, so with that said, let's jump right into it and just get started on it and make some cool stuff happen. All right, so first thing, what I want to do is I want to make sure my local server is up, and I want to be able to log into it. So I want to put in a test account. So just bear with me for a second while I log in and enable user login. Of course, I still am referencing the old Flash client for now until eventually we get to the point where we can completely step away from it. So that's why I intentionally am implementing logic that won't break the old Flash client. And then at a certain point, we're just going to completely branch off where the Flash client won't be needed anymore. Of course, allow login. There we go. I always forget what that command is. Okay, so with that, then I can log in again with the Flash client. So we'll log in with Jane, go into the lobby, and we will create a classic room. We'll go with 8 players, create good. Let's mute that. I don't need to hear it. Okay, so that room is created by the other test account. And we're just going to leave that there for now. So test account is good. Okay, now with the test account, now I'll be able to log in with this account and be able to jump into that room and get whatever synchronization information that comes with it. And there's the room right there, and we join it, and there's the level. Of course, it doesn't match right now, right? Because I haven't built in all of the environmental stuff, but I'm using the trees as the pillars. So the pillars are the trees. And then the destroyable blocks, haven't gotten to that yet. But what I want to do is I want to destroy the trees as well on regeneration. So we don't have items that are remaining from before in the previous game round. That's something I haven't done yet. And the shadows look a little off. I think I need to go in there and adjust some of the shadow settings to get a little bit better shadows, but I'm not too concerned about that right now. I'll probably leave that for later sometime off stream, I think, because I need to go in and do some performance settings, or what is it? Performance settings, or I forget the settings, but there, there's a settings section where you can go inside of here and go into project settings. And right here, quality settings, that's what I was thinking of. So in the quality settings, there's a bunch of them that I want to add into here. Everything from lowest to low is kind of what I'm thinking. So it would go lowest, low, medium, high, and then probably ultra or maximum, probably maximum, or something like that. But so we have a nice range, right? That way you can go in there and you can set those settings, and then of course when we get to that point, there will be and the user has the ability to do that. It would be something like, so you go into here in, let's say, display settings, you would go set your quality settings, whatever that may be, out of the 5 or 6 different options that you have. And then you can go in and you can fine tune it if you want to at that point. That's kind of the idea of how I would like to do it, but we'll see how that goes, right? I won't be getting there anytime soon in terms of being able to change the settings from inside the Unity game client, but from within Unity, it's absolutely feasible to be able to go in and set some of this stuff just manually, and then have different settings like shadows, shadow quality, and a bunch of other stuff like texture related stuff. Anyway, so let's jump into some of the code and see kind of what's going on. Because what I was doing before, so it was, let's see, created a pillar, but then, no, actually over here, created a pillar. Right, so we need to add to dictionary after creation. We need to add this object to a dictionary. For right now, we'll use a separate dictionary, but then later what I'm thinking is I'll make a 2D dictionary and then have all this stuff derived from a base class, and then have that base class then be put into a 2D dictionary that I can easily go through. But for right now, let's just create a private dictionary, and then same idea, string, and then of that type, a dictionary, environment object properties. No, that's the wrong one. Environment dynamic object is what I meant. Okay, so it would be a dictionary. No, let's call it more specifically. This one is the dictionary for the pillars. So indestructible pillars. Okay, and then it will be a new dictionary of this type. And then let's add a little bit of formatting. It just helps me easily read it better at a glance. So you'll see me oftentimes do this kind of formatting. So we got our key, and then we got our object that we're going to be putting in. So that looks good so far. And then from here, when we go to create it, we will add to dictionary. So we'll need a key, but then afterward, we should be able to say dynamic object. So what's our key gonna be? I think we'll use the same key as before, which was to, what did we use? Yeah, we used position X, Y, Z. Let's do the same for now. Instead of block ID, we'll go with key ID. I think that's a more generic term. And then position Z. What was position Z? I don't think I'm using it yet. Oops, did I go by it? I did. Yeah, position Z, there we go, not used yet. Meaning we will, of course, be using it later because it is a 2.5D environment. Really, it's 3D that's made to look 2D, which is why it's called 2.5D, right? And we'll get there. It'll look really awesome later on. For right now, it looks okay, but oh, here's the duplicate stuff that I was talking about. So we want to get rid of the previous game round indestructible objects, which is really the trees. So then it'll always create new, and that this is exactly what I want to avoid. So that's why we're putting it in the dictionary on creation. We add it to the dictionary, and it'll be based on its position as the unique ID, and there's no overlapping objects. And then after that, what I'd like to do then is go clear them. So where's my clear? Right here. So we'll add another one here. So ground block, remove ground blocks. I'll be doing the exact same as that, pretty much. Yeah, okay, I can just put it right here at the bottom then. So instead of remove ground blocks, it will be remove indestructible pillars. And then what we'll be doing is same idea, looping through the dictionary, but in this case, we'll be looping through and grabbing this object type. And then we'll be calling destroy, and then we will clear it. Okay, so there's our clear, and I do want to test just to make sure that is working correctly. So let's have a look at that, just to make sure that it is working correctly, and then we'll move on. It does look good already as it is too, like just the visuals. It's gonna look so good because we're using real-time lighting, right? And it's a 2.5D environment, which uses pixel art as kind of like a texture on a quad, and then the ground, the cubes are actually just cubes. They're a 3D cube. Okay, so I'll need to go and log in. Okay, so we're logged in. There's my other client. So there's my other client. Next round will begin shortly, so we'll know by these objects being removed. Okay, so they were removed and they were recreated, but this doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be all the way on the ends like that. There should be another. Oh, okay, well, if it's the same, then it's the same, whatever. So what I'll do then is I will create. Yeah, I will not create, that's not the right word. What I'll do is I will add another guest account or another account into the mix. So then we'll have 3 members. We have Jane. Let's go with James. Okay, and we'll join the same room. So that one will have to wait until next round. So let's go ahead and KO on this round. And then the level gets bigger. So the server, the more people that join the room, of course, the larger the level gets. And that's intentional by design. So when you get up to 8 users, which is the maximum, it'll reach its maximum size. It's very interesting how it's building those pillars. I thought I fixed that. Either way, I don't see any errors on the server side, so we're just going to go with it. Okay, so there is our pillars, and it looks good. Like in terms of the level, I would say that's an accurate match. We got our green ones here, right? We got our blue ones up here. So these pink ones are the blue ones. And then we got 2 red ones. So the red ones are the blue ones. Yeah. So I would say that's a successful match. Let's KO and move on to the next round. Okay, that looks good to me. All right, so let's have a look at it though. I want to make sure that those objects are completely gone. So game room, ground, and then how many of these do we got? That looks good. That looks perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. Okay, so with that then, you can see that the shadows, they look better here. It's because they're just rendered a bit differently, but that's okay though. We'll get there. Okay, so with that, I'm confident that that is working correctly. I want to be able to build create other stuff. Right now I hard coded some of the logic, like for creating the ground, for creating the pillars specifically. Some of the properties are just hard coded. Do I have a bookmark? Create item, scroll view. No, I don't want that bookmark. Let's clear all of them. Bookmarks are really helpful. I highly recommend using bookmarks just because they're so useful. Like the more you use them, the more you realize how useful they are to be able to bookmark a location and jump back and forth. I don't use them nowhere nearly as much as I should, but that's because I don't consistently program. When I used to consistently program, I was utilizing bookmarks and keyboard shortcuts a lot more, but I kind of, since I don't do it as much, I keep falling out of that habit, which is a good habit to have, absolutely. So it's something that I do want to get back onto. Okay, so what I want to do is go and where's our create stuff? Let's actually, probably easier just go backwards. So create block, pretty much here. Okay, so here's the ground blocks. This is one location. I don't want this location. I want the test one. Where's my test? Okay, so there's my test one. So I'll bookmark this. So Control KK to bookmark, and that's the ground that you see. So when you saw me create that test one, and then there's the two trees that I created, which are the indestructible blocks. We have some options for different things that we can create, which is great. But what I want to do is I want to see if I can make this more versatile is what I want to do. So we create indestructible pillars, right? But what I want to do is I want to set some parameters because where is it? When we go here, create indestructible pillar, we're instantiating out of this one prefab, which is the main prefab for all objects that will be of 2.5D. So it's a pixel art object that's placed onto a quad that's properly scaled, and it has the right width and height dimensions for it to look the way that it does. But then these properties though, so these ones here that you see me hard code, these are supposed to be dynamic, right? These are supposed to be more versatile. So I want to see what I can do about making it a bit more versatile in its creation. I mean, some of this stuff could stay here for now. I don't care too much, but I do want to be able to just create stuff, like whatever. It doesn't matter. I want to basically, probably won't change this function for now, but what I'm thinking is probably just make a new function so I can pass all of these things in So I'll have a generic function for use for now, and then continue to expand on that logic later on moving forward. It's kind of what I'm thinking. So let's do that. So it will be public void create 2D 2D dynamic object, right? And then we're going to give it a we need to give it a key. And it needs to be of string type because of the way that we're storing it for now. It might stay as a string indefinitely. Usually I like to use an integer, but in this particular case, because of the way that we're going to be formatting it for the time being, it will need to be a string type. So string key ID, or we can just call it string ID. Okay, and then let's see, what do I want to take? So we need to provide a position start, even though we're not using it. So it's 0, 0. Position start is an offset position. It's not really the starting position. Or is it? No, actually, position start is being used. Okay, sorry. So we do need position start. So let's copy that over. We need position start. We will definitely need variation ID, but that's going to be the last one. So then what I'll do is I want to give the object a name. Right now, we're not giving it a name. It should have a name, the game object specifically. So we'll say GameObject.name equals, just so we have some differentiation between the names and whatnot. So this will be indestructible pillar plus the variation ID, I guess, for now. That's fine. Just so it stands out. I'd like to use the key instead, but no, let's use the key instead. I like the key idea. So let's bump this up to about here. Okay, so then with that, what we can do is we can add the key ID to the name of the object. That way it just makes it so much easier to find. Okay, so that looks good. That means then we can pass in, so I want to do this. So I want to go basically primary, secondary, object size, and variation ID, and all of those are enums. Yeah, I want to do that. Let's do that. And there's the barking dog as usual. I'm sure you guys can hear that. I do like dogs, I do, but owners need to take responsibility for their dogs and for the actions and teach the dogs. Dogs are happy to learn. They are. They want to be a part of your family. They want to be a part of your pack, right? And they want to learn. You just need to spend the time and teach them properly. Show them respect, show them care, and they'll return the same back to you. It's as simple as that. Okay. So we have the string ID, we have the position start, and then I want to add in the, oh yeah, it's going to get a really long, going to be a long line. So what I'll do then is we'll just break it up. We'll just break up this line and we'll break it at the end of the comma. Yeah, so that'll help just kind of clear it up a bit. So this is going to be called type primary. That's not what I meant to do. Type primary. There we go. And then the next one will, of course, be secondary. The naming convention that I'm going with is one that I just kind of came up with, but it's an important one that will come into play much later. So this one is going to be type secondary. And then the object size. And then the variation ID, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be what we're going to be passing into it. Just want to make sure that this is the same spelling. Sometimes yeah, it wasn't. Sometimes I don't spell things correctly when I really should. Okay, so with that being passed in, what we want to do is basically take it all into account. So we need to calculate position offset. We will need to do that. So X, Y, Z. And then we'll need to instantiate and then give it a name, give it the position. So basically all of this, actually it's pretty much all of that actually. So what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste it, and then I'll take out the stuff that is going to be dynamic. So, or modify the stuff, should I say, that's going to be more dynamic. So primary, secondary, and object size. And you can see what I'm doing, of course. And then instead of being indestructible, what we're going to do then is we're going to go with, how can we name it unique? Oh, okay, actually it's in front of me this whole time. So we'll go this plus underscore plus, oh wait, I meant to put the underscore there. Whoops. Okay, yeah, so we'll go with that. Similar to the naming convention that I gave it. So type primary and then plus underscore, and then it'll be type secondary plus underscore, and then of course object size plus underscore, and then the key ID. Key ID? No, variation ID, then key ID. Yeah. But since variation ID is just an ID, we will say no, actually we don't need to say anything. We just need the value. So variation ID plus underscore. And that's going to be our function. I'll just clean that up a little bit. That looks pretty good. So then the thing is, of course, we need to put it into the right dictionary, which we're not yet doing. So this is where the 2D dictionary comes in, because we want to put it into the right dictionary object. For right now, I'll put it as in the indestructible pillars. Or do I? No, that's kind of not a good idea for now. It'll mess things up. I won't remember that detail later. So let's go with if type, if something. If something. What do we use as the if? If add a category of some sort. Yeah, we can add a category of some sort. And then we can use the category for later for the 2D dictionary as well. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So we'll add a environment object category is kind of what I'm thinking. That way we can kind of categorize them, or we could use a tag system of some sort, but really they're the same thing. And I want to be able to set it through here. So yeah, let's do that for now. If I find a better solution later based on the criteria, we'll make it work. But for right now, let's just do this. So we'll say public enum environment object category. And it will be of type integer. Okay, one will be ground will be 0. Let's call the ground cube actually to be more specific. So ground cube is going to be 0. And then from there we will say indestructible pillars being 1, and then destroyable objects. No, let's just call it destroyables. Sure, let's just go destroyables for now, and that will be category 2. So then when we go and pass that in, what I'd like to do is, so we'll add this in here at this point, and we'll say environment object category. So we pass in the category, then we can do a if, which really should be a switch or an if. I guess it doesn't really matter, but let's go the switch. Let's go the switch for now. So that's going to be our switch. That dot. So we'll have ground cubes. So we'll have ground cube, and then we'll have indestructible pillars, and then we will have destroyables. And of course, this will change once I have some more of the stuff figured out. But I just want to try to generalize these things if I can, or make it more dynamic, should I say. So indestructible pillars will go into there. Ground cubes will not go into there. Indestructible pillars will go into here. And then destroyables, same thing. I don't have objects yet. Like I don't have this stuff. I don't have pixel art for these, but I do have pixel art for other stuff. So I'll be using the other stuff instead of these. So I'll use the next closest thing kind of thing for now until later when we get the actual objects themselves. So let's see. So with that, then yeah, I think that's it for now. That would mean then we need another dictionary. For dictionary, destructibles. So the stuff that we can destroy. Then we'll go into here. Destructibles dot add, of course. And same idea, key ID and the dynamic object. Oh, and we need to be able to destroy the destructibles. Remove indestructible pillars. And then same idea for indestructibles. So let's go and clean this up first real quick. I'm actually going to leave that note because that's an important note. So instead of destroy, use object pool. Yeah, that's what I want. So then I'll just grab this. Whoops, I meant copy. I didn't mean cut. And then we'll loop through it. Same idea. Remove, and instead of indestructibles, it'll be destructibles. And I'll place this right where this one is as well. Oh yeah, pick up objects. Okay, we'll get to that a bit later. We'll definitely get into that later. So for right now, we have remove destructibles. We have remove indestructibles. So we have the clear stuff. I can't add the other one into here just because it doesn't derive from the same base class, so it doesn't make sense. This function is not capable of creating it. But this is a good function. It's a really good function. And I'm going to change this to use this function instead. That's kind of the purpose of this, is to kind of funnel it. So then when you go to change logic in one location, it applies to everything. So what we need to do is we need to, and this will be the first time we're using this. So I'll need to do a bit of prep. We'll need the string ID. So string ID is going to be, what's the ID? Key ID. So we'll need key ID. We'll need position start, which we already have. We will need type primary, secondary, and object size. Okay, we do not have those yet. So what I'll do is I will hard code what we don't have. Similar to what we did here. I'm just prepping this so I can paste right into it the values that I currently have copied in my clipboard. Okay, that didn't work. So much for that idea. I thought it would work. I guess not. I keep pressing the wrong button. I'm so used to the other keyboard that I was just using for work that I keep messing it up. Oh, did I get that wrong? I did get that wrong. Whoops. I got that wrong. Okay, so that one goes there. This one follows suit after it. Then this one. So then we need category. Category is going to be of type indestructible pillar. Okay, so we have all of those kind of ready to go. Just doing the prep work before I call that function. What else are we missing? We need to pass in variation ID, which we already have. Okay, so then we can go and call this function. All right, so the first one is going to be the key ID. Second one is, of course, going to be the position start, followed by environment object category, followed by type primary, and then secondary, and then the size, and the last one being the variation ID. Okay, so if all goes well, that should work, and we should get ourselves the same result as what we had before. The good thing now, or the difference now, is that now we're using this centralized function, and this function will continue to grow and be a more and more of an important part of the logic moving forward. Of course, it'll need to be added on to be a bit more versatile later on, but for right now, I think it'll do its job. All right, so let's see this thing in action. What I want to see is pillars. Excellent. So no crashes. That looks good to me. Okay, so let's go and log in. Okay, I'm going to KO one of the players. Okay, so we should get a rebuild. Interesting. I didn't see anything change. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to it, but I didn't see anything change. Or did it? Did it change and I wasn't paying attention? That could have been the case. That's a lot of ground cubes. How many is that? 56. No, that's correct. That's all of our ground cubes. There's 56 ground cubes. It doesn't look like there's 56, but there is 56 ground cubes. And then there's our two test ones that I have disabled right now. And then we have this. So yeah, no, this looks clean. Okay, so with that, then what I can do is I should just as easily be able to now use the other data to build out the destroyable objects. Of course, again, these are just the temporary graphics and whatnot, but that's not the important part. The important part is that it works. That's the important part. Okay, so create indestructible pillars. And that creates this. I'm confident that this is working. I'm going to remove that. I'm very confident. Okay, so then what I need to do is I need to create the destroyables now. The destroyables, I want to... How do we want to do that? Because I don't know if I have enough variations of any of the objects to do destroyables. Because destroyables, I think we need 5 or 6 variations. I'm trying to think of what I have that meets that criteria, and I don't think I do. I don't have that much artwork. We'll just make it the same object. We'll override the variation ID, and it'll just be the same object instead of being, yeah. Let's do that. That works. That definitely works. Okay, so what I want to do is take this function Do we use this? Yeah, it's used for looping. Okay, so then same idea as this. I want to take both of these functions and create more. So create indestructible pillars is going to be create destructibles, and then create destructible singular. Okay, and then that we'll call this. Let's clean this up a little bit. I'll leave that test stuff in there. I don't think I want to remove that test stuff. It's always helpful to just leave that there. Okay, so when it gets to this point and we call create destructible, it should be a type destructible, so it gets stored into the other dictionary. And then we can set the primary type. Instead of tree, let's see what objects do I have, because I keep forgetting. So let's open up a sprite and let's have a look at, yeah, let's go to here. And then let's collapse some of this stuff that I don't really need right now. Okay, for export, environment. There we go. Okay, so what do we have that would kind of fit that in terms of destroyables? What I'm thinking is probably either these two or the smaller versions, which is kind of the mushrooms, which are somehow not in here. But I think these would work, so I could probably just grab this one here and just use that one for now. I think that would work. Because we don't need all those variations right now. Variations are nice to have. We don't need them right now. And even this, we don't have enough variations. How are they being displayed? Because I think there's supposed to be 4 variations of pillars. There is 4 variations, right? I'm not mistaken. Let me open that up real quick. I think there's 4 variations. I don't recall exactly. Okay, where is... Okay. So where is our... Yeah, we have 4 variations, but I only have 3 variations of those trees. So how are we not getting an error? Or are we getting an error and I'm just not noticing it? That could be the case. That could definitely be the case. Let's have a look at that and see. Because it has to give an error. Or maybe we've just lucked out and somehow the server hasn't generated a map that has that 4th variation. So let's have a look at that and see. Because that doesn't make sense. It should be crashing or giving some kind of notification warning. Okay, so this one has all 4 variations. Right. Okay, I forgot. We actually have a lot more variations of trees. That's why we're not getting any errors. It's just the colors are different. That's why it kind of throws me off. We have actually a lot more variations of trees that I forgot about. So we have these 3 here, and then we have these other 2 here as well. So we actually have 5. So we have more than one that's not, sorry, we have one that's not being used. Okay, that's why it's not throwing an error. Okay, so that makes sense. Then what I want to use is the, let's go with the blue little cube thing. Let's go with that for our destroyables. So for our destroyables, it'll be a primary type. It is, I don't remember if it's tree or what exactly. I think it was tree. I think it's tree, type cube, and then size small. I don't recall. I really don't recall, but we'll find out when we see it, right? So then what I need to do is just call this function. And just pass in that. And of course, we need to call the right function. Okay, so we call map create destructibles. We pass in the initial offset, which is not being used right now, and that's fine. We'll get rid of that later. And then we pass in the map information. So let's have a look at it and see what does that look like. It's going to look good. I definitely think it's going to look good, but it's not quite there yet. Slowly getting there. Okay, and then of course we need to log in. All right, so logged in. Let's see, what does this look like? And ooh, right, because we didn't override them. Those are the other variations that they don't exist. That's why they can't be loaded. That's what's happening. So what we can do is we can actually kind of see, how many variations do we need? We need 4 variations. Okay, so 4 variations, what can I use? Because I like the idea of them being different, but they don't have to all be different. So we can use, what else do we got? I don't have any more variations of these. If I did, I would definitely use it. I just don't have the other colors, and I don't want to get into doing more pixel art right now. It's just not something I want to do right now at this specific moment. Okay, let's see. What I want to do is, let's just force it into one variation then. We can definitely do that. So instead of passing in a variation ID, what we can do is override variation ID to be a variation 0. Okay, so by forcing that, they'll all be the same. We won't have different variations of the same object. Okay, and let's log in. Let's see what this looks like. And not what I was expecting. Can we not override that in that way? Oops, I did the wrong one. I did the indestructibles, that's why. Okay, I meant to do the destructibles, not the indestructibles, of course. That's what I meant to do. I was wondering what happened. All the trees went blue, but exactly what I was trying to fix did not get fixed, and it's still present. Minor little detail. Okay, it should be working now this time, I think. Okay. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, so there's our destroyable objects and our indestructibles exactly as the level has it. Of course, it doesn't look the same because we're having different objects and different colors. The colors don't match, but it's just the inner grid, that inner rectangle. Okay, so now for the test to see if it rebuilds correctly. So we'll KO one of the players. That looks pretty good. So everything looks like it's in the correct spot. Yeah. I would say that's pretty good. So that's our indestructibles. And then that's our destructibles. and then the ground. Okay. Yeah, I would say that's a success. Okay, so with that, that means then we have successfully created indestructibles and differentiate them from the destroyables. We can't do anything yet. We don't have a character model. And the UI controls right now, they're kind of working, but they have nothing to control. We don't have a player character. So I want to get the player character in here. Even though I don't have artwork, we're going to use the same temporary character for now. And then I want to get the controls working. See if I can, maybe not completely working in this broadcast, but what I'd like to do is get it started, right? So then we have a starting point, and then I'll be able to work on it on the weekend, which is when I do most of the work on the project anyway. So that's what I want to do, is I want to get it to that point. But then I also want to run this on my mobile. So I want to do, I think I want to do an Android build and then get it on my mobile device and have a look at that and see how it looks and feels on the mobile device, because that's really important. Like I'm looking at this right now and the FPS is just terrible, right? Let's do that. And then it jumps right up, of course. But that minimum FPS, that 35, 39, 34, 37, 38, 36, that shouldn't really be happening. Something is eating a lot of resources. That's fine though. That's where performance optimization, all that stuff come in at a much later time. I'm not too concerned about that right now. Okay, so let's see. How can we bring in the character and all the character stuff? Because that's going to be, that's going to be a whack load of logic that I'll need to do code review and refactor and restructure a lot of that stuff. And I do mean a lot. Okay, so while we're here, let's just, so I don't forget, we'll add a little bit of notes. Create a 2D dictionary for all objects. And have these objects extend from base class. Okay, and then in the end here, I'm going to add in pick up items or power-ups, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to be all of our items. Yeah. That's going to be all of our items. Let's see. What else do we need? I could also use an interface instead of using a base class. But no, they're going to share the same logic. May as well just have a base class or a base class and an interface. That's an interesting idea. I'll consider that. I'll definitely consider that and see what we want to do with that. For those of you that are just tuning in, hello and welcome to the broadcast. Feel free to say hi. I don't mind. I do this to kind of just share with you guys what goes on behind the scenes of the project. Because I get asked, and I have been asked many, many times before in the past, what are you working on? How's it going? And a lot of technical kind of questions. I can't answer realistically in text format with a couple of words. It just doesn't work. Um, Hello, Nixton. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well and looking forward to the weekend. So, like I was saying, part of the reason why I do this is, of course, because it's fun too, right? This is a learning experience for me, and I get to share it with you guys. I'm learning this stuff. I'm not an expert by any means. I just do this because it's something that I enjoy doing, and it's an opportunity to use a skill set that I don't use in my day to day doing anything else, and it's something that I enjoy. I do have some programming experience, of course, from some time ago, which is why a lot of that knowledge and technical understanding kind of carries over. But it was never like this. I was not a game developer, and especially not for making a multiplayer game kind of stuff. This stuff is really fun to actually figure out these challenges that come with something like this, like just to figure out how to do this in terms of getting them to look correctly so they look like pixel art. They're actually vertically scaled so that when you look at it at the correct angle, right, it looks correct, right? It looks like pixel art, right? So the other option is to rotate them. But if you rotate them, right, which is called billboarding, it works really well, but not if you want to do certain things. So there's pros and cons to everything, right? For this, billboarding would not achieve the correct result that I want, because I want to put objects in front of other objects and behind other objects that are a mixture of 2D, so flat like this, as well as ground, which is a cube, right? So if you billboard something because it tilts backwards, right, it can actually clip into the object behind it. So then the other option is to, instead of just billboarding it, billboard it and slice it, right? So one of these trees, for example, could be sliced in two. So you slice it in the middle, and then you have two billboard objects, which consists of that one object, and then it just keeps on going on and on, right? So I went with the solution that I think works for me for now, and then see what better solutions I can come up with later on down the line. But it's going pretty good so far. I just I don't know. It's been a fun journey. I can definitely say that it's been really fun. Okay, so let's see. What I want to do is, do I have it open? No, I don't have it open. Okay, I need to open up my other project where I'm bringing my stuff in from. Everything that I'm bringing in is coming in from this other project, which was working perfectly fine, but it just got too messy and too convoluted. I didn't put that much effort into keeping it clean, but it's because I just kind of let it go. It got to a point where I went back and I tried to salvage it, and I was going through the code, and there's so much legacy code. There's so many prototypes and experiments all mixed in. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. I will salvage everything I can from it, which is where all the code and the assets and everything's coming in. But then I'll bring it in piece by piece, right? And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm bringing everything in piece by piece. Oh, I think I do have it open. I do. Okay, cool. So I'm bringing everything in piece by piece. I'm doing a code review. I'm reassessing it. I'm trying to figure things out. And in the other one, for testing, I was still using the Unity tile map, but right now I'm using, of course, cubes for the ground, and we're using a 3D environment versus before with the tile map, everything was 2D. So there's definitely some challenges that come with that. But what I want to do is I want the player character specifically. What? I thought I had a player prefab? No? Really? I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Oh, character model. That's what I think the prefab was called. Scripts, prefabs, environment, character model. Okay, so that's my character model. So I want to bring this guy in. This is what I want to bring in. And it comes with a bunch of logic that I've already done, which is great, but still I need to do a proper code review for all of it. And then what I want to do is, as I'm bringing this stuff in, of course, each one of these sub pieces or sub prefabs that are nested in the tree structure has its own logic, has its own systems and stuff that it ties into. So it's not a simple just drag and drop. And that's a good thing, because then it forces me to do a proper code review and review the structure of it. Maybe I want to change the structuring of it, right? And this is the best time to do it. And we'll get there. We will definitely get there. Okay, so the things that I want to bring in, because it has two prefabs, I want to see if I can bring these prefabs in. Oh, right. This is good stuff. This logic for the emotes, that was really cool system implementing that. Definitely going to be using that, but some of this logic will need to be revised for it to work correctly. So won't be using sprites anymore. We're using quads now. So the groupings and all of that stuff are going to be different. The sorting is going to be different on some of it as well. Interesting. Maybe I'll bring in the easier one first, the chat bubble. Yeah, I think I'll go with the easier object first. So we'll bring in the chat bubble first. So that's what the chat bubble consists of. Bring that in first and its logic, and that'll give me an opportunity to experiment and learn from this one before we get to the more complex object, which is the emote, and then the player character and everything that comes with that. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, so what do we need for this? We need this class for sure. So we'll need the chat bubble, and it is in GUI. All right, let's bring that in. Okay, so chat bubble is going to go into my GUI section of the scripts. Not resources, but scripts. GUI. Yeah. So I'll just drag and drop that into there. Actually, I should have checked if it already exists. Yeah, okay, so it already exists. I did not want to do that. I really need to check that, because sometimes I forget what I brought in from before and I just drag and drop stuff, and I need to be more thoughtful of it when I'm doing that stuff. Okay, so we already have chat bubble. Let's have a quick look at that. Okay, so it looks pretty simple. Of course, we're using my my event system, my custom event system, and then the rest of it looks pretty straightforward. So nothing overly complex or anything, but it is using sprite renderer and we're using Canvas, which is not a big deal because Canvas does work in a 3D environment, but Sprite Renderer does not for sorting. Yeah, okay, so yeah, this is definitely going to have some challenges with it, but that's okay. Should be able to do it. So let's go into the prefab of it. And I just want to see if there's anything else that it consists of that has any scripts or any other potential challenges that may be associated with it. Okay, so we'll need to bring in some of the graphics. For sure, we'll need to do that. Okay, so let's bring in the graphics while I remember it. Just gonna show an Explorer, and then I'm going to grab the graphic with the metadata. That way, it's just so much easier to just bring it in that way. Okay, so we'll go resources, images or Atlas. Let's go with Atlas. We'll put it in the Atlas stuff. And I'm just going to paste it right into there. Okay, so it should pop up. Okay, so now we have our chat bubble, or the 3 pieces of it, and we'll be assembling it shortly. Okay, so we have that. That means then next step is to bring in the prefab, really. So this is going to be a prefab. It will be GUI related. Wonder if I brought it in already. I don't think I should have. So it's called chat bubble. No. Okay. So we don't have it yet, which is good. What I'm going to do is just drag and drop it into, if it allows me. There we go. Okay, so chat bubble, of course, it's going to say missing script and layering and all that stuff, which is fine. It's totally to be expected. Okay, so the script part is going to be chat bubble, and I'll set those parameters very soon. The other thing is the sorting group. We can't use sorting group because we're no longer using sprites, or should I say the sprite renderer specifically. So sorting group will not work that way. At least I don't think so. Does sorting group work with quads? I don't think it does. Let's actually double check that, because I don't actually know. I am making an assumption. Nope. I don't think so. I don't think so. It wouldn't make sense because it doesn't do that. It's very specific in what it does do. Okay, let's set all of these that we need to set. So what we need to set is the name and the message. So this one's going to be name. This one's going to be message. And then the sprite renderer, which will be replaced. Actually, we should have multiple sprite renders now that I think about it. I don't know. I'm going to have to test this. Because if a sprite is inside of a canvas, then it should work. So that would mean that if I put my other sprite inside of a canvas, it would also sort on 3D instead of having to make it a quad. What's better? Lighter, a quad or a canvas? I would say a quad off the top of my head. We'll find out. We'll find out which direction I'm going to go with it. And my camera died again. Okay. There we go. It's because I'm using a really old Android phone for my camera. I put Lineage OS on it, which is awesome. Highly recommend Lineage OS. Those guys are great that make that stuff. It just gives your phone so much more longevity and life. You can use it for forever and ever. Such a clean operating system too. None of that extra bloat and all of that just whatever nonsense. And it's just so performant, so clean, and it gives you root access. You can uninstall or install anything or any services that you want. In my opinion, all phones should come like that. It's a freaking computer, right? Why not let the user remove the bloat that they never asked for and paid for in the first place, right? It's just simple common sense, right? But no, they want that bloat in there. They want all that tracking. They want all of that information collecting stuff. So I just make more money off it. And then they don't support it after a while, right? Which is ridiculous, right? Like, you're paying for a phone. Let me remove something from it that causes it to crash if you're no longer supporting it, software-wise, of course. It's one of those things. So auto hide after 4 seconds. Okay, and then BG player name and message. Removing bloat, sure, absolutely, great. I heavily agree with that. Allowing root access by default, maybe not default. Having worked in a repair shop for a couple of years, I'll have to disagree. That's fair. By default, probably not a good idea, because most people are, yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that, and you're right on that. But I'm not the average user, right? For the average user, absolutely, right? That's why you hide the debug options into the debug section of the Android operating system, right? That's why you hide those things, right? But I'm not talking about the average user, right? If an average user wants to do that, let them by all means. If they really want to do that, then okay, that's fine. But I'm talking about the minority. Those people like myself who have no problems connecting an Android device to a computer and going in through ADB and doing all kinds of interesting and fun stuff with it, especially if you're a developer. Developers, I would say all developers and everyone who's tech savvy falls into that category of, please give us the option, right? You can hide it, you can bury it, but give us the option, should we choose to do so, to be able to go in there and remove bloatware, or even allow us to unlock the bootloader, which a lot of manufacturers still don't let you do, especially like on tablets, which give a device so much more longevity, so much more use. Like, how many tablets do you buy, or how many tablets can you buy that you can confidently say come with zero bloatware and are fully customizable. I'm not that experienced with it, but I could say that chances are probably near to zero. I've had so many people come in saying their grandkid put a passcode on their phone after they didn't have any sort of security. That's brutal. That's brutal. If they had root access, that phone would be bricked by the first kid that watched a YouTube tutorial showing them how. That's fair. I would say that's definitely going to happen. It will absolutely happen. But just because something can happen, and this is my opinion, just because something can happen, it doesn't mean you completely remove it for everybody across the board. There's going to be people that no matter how much you try to help them, right, they're still going to brick that phone, right? And if they're going to do that, then you know what? Maybe they need to do that to learn from it. I'm not saying for it to be a detrimental experience. I mean, for it to be a positive experience, in either A, they learn that they probably shouldn't be doing that and they're not qualified for it, or B, after bricking their first phone, they'll realize to read instructions better and pay attention to the technical details and those little nuances. So then the next time they go to approach something like that, they'll approach it in a more structured manner where they're following instructions clearly and they're being thoughtful of the decisions they make. Like before wiping your phone, right? You want to back up all the information, right? Those kinds of things, right? And the other details that go along with it. But I strongly believe that there should be an option, even if it means that you have to go in through ADB or some other specific tool, that you have to sign a waiver or agree to a waiver to be able to download this tool, to then be able to connect your phone to your computer, right? To then again agree that you are waiving your what's it called, I'm forgetting the name of the return policy and repairs and all of that stuff. The name just completely slips my mind. Warranty. That you're completely voiding your warranty should you screw anything up, and that you're taking full onus and responsibility. At that point, I think it's okay. At that point, granted, you know there's going to be people that are still going to mess it up. But that goes to the other thing I just said before, in that maybe you need to learn that. Because the first time I tried it, I bricked my phone too. I did. And I thought I was going in and knowing what I was doing. And then I went in and I bricked my phone. And I was like, okay, I have one phone. And that one phone, I just bricked it. What am I going to do? Right? So I sat there for 2 days. Or 2 or more days, I don't know, figuring it out. And eventually I got it, right? That was a valuable lesson, right? Follow the instructions clearly, because they're there for good reason. If somebody put the time and effort, which I appreciate for those that do, to provide technical documentation in a simplistic step-by-step format of do this, then do this, then do this, don't do this, please don't do this, right? If I don't follow those instructions and I brick my phone, that's on me. That's totally me. Anything can be abused. I agree. Anything can be abused. I'm aware that AirTags, for example, can be abused, but I understand that the risk and still keep a couple of on a few of my things. Yeah, no, that's perfectly reasonable. I also believe that AirTags and whatnot can be abused, and I recall seeing it on the news some time ago. They were misused in some manner or whatnot. I didn't really read it. I just kind of skimmed over it. But absolutely, things can be abused, misused, misunderstood even, because oftentimes I get people who say, oh, this doesn't work. Okay, but what doesn't work? This doesn't work. I tried using it, it doesn't work. But what do you mean it doesn't work, right? Did you read the instructions? Yeah, I did. That's not really a yes, right? A confident yes is saying, yes, I read the instructions, right? To say, yeah, I did. That's more like saying, okay, I know there was instructions and I maybe looked at the cover of it and then kind of threw it aside and said, I don't need this. I can do this on my own without it, right? That's not really reading the instructions. In my book, anyway, it does not qualify. Hardcode control like that should only be available to those that understand that that's what they're getting and accept the risks. I agree. I would never suggest Delore use Linux Mint, but I would absolutely recommend it to someone that wants to dip their toes into Linux. Yeah, no, I agree on all of those. And sometimes it just comes down to, I think, personal preference or opinion, because a lot of things are subjective, right? What I think should be, let's say, something that's general knowledge in today's modern day and age, someone else may not necessarily agree with that, right? Because we're past that era. We're no longer in the horse and carriage era, right? Some things you really do need to know as a basis of foundation of being a member of society, right? As a human being, we are the most intelligent and most advanced species on the face of this planet, as far as we know, right? With the exception of some chimps. Those things are pretty smart, have to say. They're really smart. And with that in mind, you have to consider that there's going to be varying degrees of intellect. There's going to be varying degrees of aptitude. There's going to be varying passions, various interests, various people with different masteries even, right? I am so far away from being a Linux expert, right? But when I think of a server, the first thing I think of is Linux. The last thing I think of is Windows, right? That doesn't even register for me, right? When I think of a server, right? Like when we were at one of my jobs and I was asking them like, like how well, just kind of shooting, just a normal conversation with some of the tech guys. I was not in the tech crew. I was in a completely different department. And they were like, wow, this guy can talk tech, right? I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit. I was talking to them about some of the stuff and some of the challenges that they were having. And I'm like, okay, like what kind of operating system are you running on the server? And, what are the challenges? And we just kind of went through just some of it, not too much in detail. I'm like, why aren't you guys using Linux? And they're all looking at me like, we don't like you. Right? I'm like, what? I'm just saying, right? Like, why not just use Linux? It's your server, right? It's way more stable. It's way more performant. It's meant to run for 10 years without rebooting it, right? Why not just use Linux, right? Any variation of Linux will work for you. But like you're using Windows and you're complaining about having challenges with Windows that you have no control over, and you're hoping for a best case scenario in every single outcome, or potentially as a worst case scenario, you're looking to bubble gum something that doesn't have an appropriate solution for it, and then you're hoping that it doesn't come back, right? So yeah, it's, I know I kind of went off on a tangent a little bit there, but it really comes back to, what you're comfortable with. Like me, I'm comfortable with learning. Other people, maybe not so comfortable with certain things, but different people have different skill sets. And I think we shouldn't be afraid of learning. We shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. We shouldn't be overly thinking that you have to get it right the first time, or that if you make a mistake, it's the worst thing you can possibly do. It's not. I mean, granted, of course, there's certain things that you just shouldn't do, right? Like someone who doesn't know how to drive a car should not be thinking about becoming a race car driver, right? It just, that just doesn't make sense, right? As an example. I know, a bit extreme, but to kind of go back to it a little bit though, like for me, there's family members that I knew that back in the day, they were all anti-technology growing up into the early and mid 90s, right? But right now, you need that technical knowledge to use a phone. You need that technical knowledge to have a job, which is not really that technical. I just mean like entry-level knowledge of how to use a device, how to use a computer, how to use anything, really. And it comes down to, again, what you're comfortable with. What's your aptitude? And by aptitude, I mean not, it's not an accurate measure of intelligence, because different people, and I've said this many times, have a different learning curve for different things. Like for me, my learning curve for some things is going to be fantastic. For other things, it's going to be pretty much the opposite, right? That's just me. We're all different, right? So, but I want the opportunity to fail because it gives me the opportunity to learn. I think I went completely off track there. But I think you know what I'm saying, though. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm saying at this point. Also catch myself needing to explain to some customers that there's difference between fast, which what they don't think they need, and responsive, which they don't know they need. That's a difficult one to explain to some people, to be honest. That's respect for attempting. My mother would slow her computer down harder than hell because she wouldn't understand Firefox was opening and would continue clicking on the icon until 16 instances of Firefox eventually opened, then wondered why the computer was slow. We've all been there. I mean, there's no harm in not understanding that. Everybody, like I said, has a different learning curve. Ultimately left the business because I realized these people, or at least the elderly in my area, were just ignorant. It was that they never even tried to learn. And I think that's a key point right there. Willing to learn and being capable of learning are very different. Because not being able to learn something, I don't agree with that. I think, of course, it's take it with a grain of salt, but to say that you can't learn something, what you're really saying is I'm not willing to try to learn something, right? I've always felt that way about it, right? I mean, for someone to tell me here, can you build a spaceship right now? My answer is going to be no. Could I learn to build a spaceship maybe 20, 30 years from now? Likely yes. Would it be the best spaceship ever made? Probably not. But it would be fun as hell, right? And it would be something I would probably enjoy doing, right? Either way, it's just one of those things. Yeah. Ultimately left the business because I realized, yeah, okay, I read that. They always want someone to clean up their mess. That's true. So there was never any reason for them to learn to not make the same mistakes over and over and over. Yeah, I agree with that. Because if you're always there for someone and you're solving their mess, then they don't even think about trying to learn to solve it themselves, or why they should and why it's important to even learn to do that in the first place. Instead, when they come up across a challenge, their solution is to go to the same person that they always go to for a solution. Their solution isn't that I need to find a solution. I need to fix this. How do I fix it? What's the starting point, and what are the steps to getting the solution for myself, right? It goes to that same example, teach a man to fish, right? That whole thing. I won't get into it. I'm sure you've heard it a million times, right? But that's something that I used to kind of think of that way. To be fair, somewhat, not completely, but I used to kind of think that way too when I was very young. But I just didn't know any better when I was young. I was a kid, right? We all grew up as being kid. You're exposed to the things that you have in your surrounding environment. You grow to understand those and to learn a certain way because of those, or sorry, I meant to say think a certain way because of this surrounding environment. But then as you get older, right, you grow out of that, and your learning curve changes, your interest changes, your personality changes, your intellect changes, all of these things. You have emotional growth, you have ability to experience and learn all kinds of different things, which adds to your overall who you are, right, as a unique individual, right? And then from there, as you get older and older, then you get to be more selective of the things that you want to learn and the things that you don't want to learn. Granted, time is always a factor, but that's something that's really important, and that's something that is something that I wish we all had more time for, which is to learn, to have time to learn and to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes and to grow from it, right? And that's something I find myself oftentimes not having the time for. And I think it's important to make those mistakes. I do. I really do. And I remember even as a kid, I used to be told by my parents, by my teachers, by my peers, mistakes are bad. Don't make mistakes. Always do it right. Always try to get it right the first time. That is completely wrong. That's not how we learn. The best lessons we learn is probably the ones that you're going to make the mistake over and over and over 10 times or more until you get it right once, right? And then you still need to make X amount more mistakes to get better and better and better at it. And then eventually you get to a certain point where you can be comfortable with it and say, okay, I learned this thing, right? And it was not easy. It was not trivial, but now I know this thing, right? And that's how it should be, because that's how we learn. That becomes a part of your character, right? Because if you're afraid of mistakes, if you're afraid of failure, then you don't explore. And that exploration, whether it's internal or external, is also important. And what I mean by internal is the creative arts, exploring, learning new things, whether you're into art, music, technology, writing, playing video games, skateboarding, playing tennis, playing basketball, whatever, right? You don't know what you're going to be good at until you try it, right? Let's say if I picked up a basketball and I wasn't able to hit a three-pointer on my very, very first try, then I say, oh, I'm not good at this. I'm just going to walk away, right? You didn't really learn, right? You didn't really try, right? But let's say you like the idea of throwing a ball into the hoop, right? And you go and you play with your friends and you're just shooting it and just having fun. Who cares if you don't get it in? The point is to have fun and learn, right? You do it again and again and again and again, day and day throughout, and you slowly grow out the skill, the accuracy, the dexterity, the stamina, the understanding, right? And you become better at it. So I played a lot of curveball. Does that count? Curveball. Curveball. I'm not familiar with that term. Is there another? Curveball. I have no idea what curveball is. Is that a video game? think it's a video game. If it's a video game, yes, it does count. Video games count. You have approval from me that video games count. Shipbuilding simulator. Yeah, absolutely it counts. Because that means that you're at least X amount ahead of anyone else who has never played a shipbuilding simulator like myself. I'd say that counts. Would I say you consider yourself an astronaut? Probably not yet. Maybe one day, though. Maybe one day. I think we all had that fantasy, to be honest. At one point. Okay, so there is my, oh, why is it doing that? That's what I want. Okay, so there's my chat message, and let's reset that position. And let's go back to it. Okay, so of course, it doesn't look correct. Kerbal Space Program, is that something that you're interested in, or is that something that you play just for fun, or is that something that you're just joking about? Because I find that those simulator games, like there's this one popular one, like sorry, not a simulator, but a building game, Factorio or something like that, where you build stuff out, right? Just the idea of building stuff out and the mechanics and the logic and the planning and all of that stuff that goes into it, I find that stuff really interesting. I'm not saying I played that game, but I'm aware of it, right? Like there's another one, the Dyson one. That one is also a pretty popular one, which I think is a great way of, it's not so much educational, but it gets you in that realm of thinking of those kinds of things, which I think has educational value, to understand that there's detailed technical intricacies of how things tie into each other and how things work together. I really think that there's value in there. There absolutely is value in there. Okay, so I'm just going to restructure this thing so it's a bit different. Because the way that it is, it's not going to work. I'm going to use the stretch method instead of billboarding it. That way, it won't clip into objects behind it, potentially, because the players are going to be moving around more than anything else. And I want them to, when they're broadcasting their chat messages, for the chat messages to use the Z depth sort, or in this case, since it's 3D, it's going to be the Y sort. No, is it Y or is it Z? No, it's Z. Sorry, it is Z. Yeah, sorry. In 2D, it's a Y sort. In 3D, it's a Z sort. Right. I get those things mixed up sometimes. So we're going to apply the vertical scale to it. I forget what the scale was, so I'm going to have to look at the environment. Okay, what did I call it? It's just a game I enjoy, but it's not uncommon for astrophysics students to claim it taught them more than college did. Wow, that is quite the comment. But I'd have to agree to an extent. Like you think about it, even Minecraft, right? That teaches you building, resources, gathering, and just all kinds of other laws, rules, and mechanics to be able to do certain things, right? There's educational value that can go hand in hand with entertainment. So I absolutely agree. And that's why I like a lot of games that are multiplayer, and they're challenging, and they're technical, right? Like, for example, I know it's kind of a obvious one that I'm going to throw in there, but here's my project, right? And I'm going to briefly explain why in just a sec when I show you this video, which you're going to understand very soon. So here's my project. Here's the game room. It's on mute. Okay. So here is Bomberman, right? What do you learn from Bomberman, right? For me, it is real-time chess, hand-eye coordination, strategy, communicational skills, team, right? Resource and understanding resource management, and obtaining resources and taking away resources to suppress another player from their growth, and learning about good sportsmanship, learning that you're not always going to win. And the most fun you're going to have is going against the most challenging players you can possibly go against and getting wrecked by them until you learn to become better. And the only way you're going to learn to be better is by putting aside your ego, right? And having fun, not to play to win, but to play to have fun and to learn. And that's just some of the things from this game, right? Every game has something to offer, right? It doesn't matter if it's Mario, like it doesn't matter what it is, right? It comes down to the individual, what you're interested in, what you want to do for your leisure, right? It's your own time. Do whatever you want with it, right? For me, if it wasn't for video games, I would have never had an interest in technology. I gained my interest in technology 100%, 100% because of video games that I was playing back in the old school days on the Atari, going to the coin arcades, and going over to my friend's house back in the day. Playing multiplayer game meant you go sit next to someone. There was no internet, right? There was no internet back then. The internet didn't exist then, right? So to play a multiplayer game meant that you would go and hang out with your friends. You drink disgusting amounts of soda, which is basically liquid sugar, and disgusting amounts of potato chips, which is basically potato dipped in fat so it absorbs the fat like a sponge. And then they put salt on it and it tastes delicious. But it's so not good for you, though. It is the opposite of being good for you. But what multiplayer game meant was that you go get together with your friends and you sit next to each other, and you pick up these really awful controllers that give you like cramps from playing on them for too long. But it was fun. It was an enjoyable experience. It was unlike anything else. And it's something I really enjoyed doing with my friends when we were little kids, right? And that will never go away, ever. And it's something I'll always remember, and it's something I will always think about periodically. And I want to bring that kind of value, that kind of fun, to future generations. Because if we can get more future generations to be involved and understand the value of technology, video games, scientific fields, whatever genre you want to branch off to, because there's a bajillion of them, right? Because technology is the future. And I didn't understand it when I was a kid, but I did understand video games. And I really, really enjoyed video games. And still do, of course. But I just don't have as much time or any time really to play like I used to back in the day. Back in the day, that was something else. I don't think I'll ever have that kind of time again in my life to be able to have that kind of time to put towards playing video games. It was really fun though. Okay, so where's the scale? There's the scale. That's what I want. So I've pre-calculated this vertical scale that will match your, for a 55-degree angle, because I didn't want to do the math every time. Just figured out what vertical scale you need to be at. So at a 55-degree angle point of view from the camera, right? So the camera at a 55-degree angle, what does the vertical scale of an object need to be for it to look correct in its pixel, what do you call it? Not necessarily pixel perfect, but pixel accurate to a varying degree, let's just say. And that ended up at 55 degrees being 0.74125. That's what it ended up being. So that way, when you look at it just flat on, right, it's stretched. But as soon as you look at it from the correct angle of perspective, it will look correct. So now that looks correct, but still need to figure out some more details. However, for now, for the intended purposes of what it is right now, I'm going to consider it temporarily acceptable and then just move on to the next task. So what's the next one? The next one is going to be the, what was it? It was in the player character. Nope, I keep forgetting what it was. So it was prefabs, environment, character model. That's what I called it. Okay, so we got chat bubble, emote bubble. Oh yeah, okay. This one is really fun. When you get to use it, it of course derives from a mixture of different games that I've played or seen that use the chat bubbles in that, or sorry, the emote bubbles, where you can do an emote. My goal is to get it to be like a visual language almost that can cross barriers of language limitations, not to the extent where you can have a full-on conversation, but to be able to say hello, to be able to say goodbye, to be able to say something like, do you want to party? Do you want to like, or come hang out with us, or we're going to do this, or just expressive emotions using an emote system. And then I'm going to be using the circular navigation, which is also awesome. And it works really well for touchscreen, mouse and keyboard, and gamepad. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to seeing that come to be something that is really usable within the game. That's going to be pretty cool to have that kind of functionality finally come together after putting so much time and effort into building up all of these individual pieces to put together and be like, okay, here's a core component that is awesome and people are going to be using it a lot. So I like those things. Of course, there's challenges along the way, and I'm being rather generous in saying that, because just the number of stuff that just, it needs to be considered. It's so easy to overlook something. Okay, so we got chat bubble, and then we're gonna go with emote. This one is a bit more of a dynamic object. Oh, right, and I'll need to bring in the emotes. Where's the emotes? Okay, so I'll need to bring this graphic in that has all of the current emotes. So let's go ahead and grab that and its meta file. And I'll be bringing that into the project and putting it inside of, I believe, yeah, it should go into the Atlas. Into the Atlas? Yeah, it should go into the Atlas. Yeah. We will put this into the Atlas. I'll rearrange some of the graphics later, but I'm just trying to be more thoughtful of where I put what in terms of the graphics. And here's my emotes collection for now. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's just go 200. There we go. So these are the current emotes that I have. There's going to be a lot more, and I do mean a lot. And the way that it works is that, and you can see which ones I did, of course, because they're awesome, right? So there's one that I did, there's one that I did, and there's one that I did. You can see they're clearly the best out of all of them. But these ones that the other members did, they're pretty cool too. They're really good, actually. I like that. But yeah, the idea is to build it out, and the circular navigation, if you haven't seen it, it uses a nesting structure. So the nesting structure for the circular navigation, I don't think I can show it off in its entirety, but I can show you roughly. So we'll run this, go into guild. Okay, so here's the circular. Oh, right. I forgot. I need to fix that for that camera view. I'll fix it later. Let me show you it from here. So same idea. Okay. Of course, this is nowhere near finished or polished, but this is entirely dynamic, right? So entirely dynamic in the way the transitions work and everything else. So it works really well, and you can navigate circular, clockwise or counterclockwise. I intentionally made some of the decisions because I wanted it to work well with touchscreen, gamepad, mouse, and keyboard, so everything, right? And then it uses a nesting structure. So the nesting structure, so this is what happens when you bring up another level. You get that transitional fade where the current layer goes back one, and then the new one comes in, and then this is what it looks like when you keep building out more and more layers. So this is where the emotes come in, right? The emotes are going to be categorized and subcategorized, and you can see that the number can get astronomically big very easily that way, and it's easily navigatable, right? So this is going to be what the emote system uses, and it's already implemented partially in the other one. So in this one where I'm grabbing stuff and bringing it in, but over here I just haven't gotten that far into it yet. But yeah, so it's pretty cool in the way that it's so easily navigatable and it looks cool. It has some nice visual aesthetics to it, and then when you add a nice polish and graphics and some other fine touches to it, it'll be really something. It'll be awesome. Yeah, so I'll be looking forward to that. Anyway, so that's what I'm bringing in right now. I'm bringing in the one of the elements of that system, which is the bubble that presents the emote. So you select the emote, right? But then what presents it, right? And that would be this here, which of course is using a default graphic right now, but so it'll do its bouncy, transitional, rotation, whatever else. Okay, so let's bring this in. So what do we need? Brought in the graphics, the transitional stuff that is using the Unity animation curve, which is really useful. Highly recommend that. And then my own transitional stuff. So some of this will break, of course, when I go and bring it in, but that's okay. We'll work it and make it work correctly. I just want to see, what do I need to bring in that I haven't brought in already? So we have the main class, and I think that's it. That's all we need. Brought in the graphics, and then, okay, I think that's really it. Yeah, okay. I can bring it in then. So we'll put it in the same location probably as the other one. It'll be inside of the prefabs GUI. It's kind of where all the visual stuff is going for now. I'll likely subcategorize it or something like that. I can't grab that. Whoops. Wait, do I have it in already? Let's check that first. Emote. Bubble. Nope. Okay. Okay, so now I know I don't have it. Drag and drop that. Oh, come on. Drag and drop. There we go. Got it. Okay, so this will of course have some errors, and that's to be expected. Okay, so first one, whoops. First one is going to be the, this will be the main class. So this will be the chat bubble. Sorry, not chat bubble, emote bubble. That's fine. And then the other one is going to be my custom class, the animation property curve. Okay. And that one I made, it's a pretty cool class. It does some really useful things and makes scripted animations and dynamic stuff, dynamic content, really just in a simplistic manner. Easy to use, really, is what it does. Okay, so we need to set these references. So the first one, of course, is going to be the container, and then the bubble, and then animation property curve, and then the icon, which will need to be changed to a quad. I mean, it works as a sprite, but it doesn't sort, because sprites don't sort on their Z. Unless you go and you manipulate the shader to do that, and I don't want to do that. I'll just go with the quad, because it's going to be more versatile for the things that I want to do anyway. Okay, so I think that's it for now, but then this has a lot of content that's missed. It has 5 entries, and we need to add a listener to animation complete. So we need to add that. This one is fine. We need to copy and paste this. Sorting is, I'm going to remove that anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. And then let's see what else. For those of you new people coming in, hello and welcome. Feel free to say hi. If you want to just hang out and just watch me work on the project, that's fine too. And if you like this project, and if you want to maybe catch the broadcasts or something else, there's always YouTube. You can watch on YouTube or Twitch, but it's archived on Twitch. And hit that follow button if you want to see next time when I go live. I do broadcasts on Tuesdays and Fridays. I don't broadcast for very long, to be honest, just because I don't have that much time. I do work on the project in between the broadcasts and whatnot, but it's something I do for fun. It's something I enjoy doing, and it's something I get an opportunity to learn from that I don't get to do in my normal day to day. So it's a rare opportunity to do something that I enjoy. And it's my pleasure to share it with you guys. And maybe you get some entertainment or some educational value, or you're just here to hang out and watch the project be made in front of you. All of those or any other is perfectly fine. Okay. So what I need to do is add that listener before I forget. So let's see, where does that listener come from? Okay. Currently working on a multi-material shader. That sounds interesting. Shaders are definitely not my strength. It's something that I'm interested in learning, but I just haven't gotten that far into this project yet to really dig into it. There's some cool stuff that I want to do, like some visual effects and some other kinds of things that are, I want to intentionally, should I say, experiment and kind of dive into that whole ecosystem of shaders and how to tie into stuff and whatnot, and to tie to get the shaders as well to work with particle effects and whatnot. I think it's really fun, and I like that it uses GPU, unlike Flash, which this project that I'm porting it over from Flash, you didn't have anything like that. I mean, sure, at the end they gave you some GPU functionality, but that's when Flash was already pretty much end of life, and they kind of just threw it in there and said, here you go, but no one really used it that much. It was when Flash was pretty much on its way out the door is when they gave you that kind of 3D functionality, and it was not well implemented. It had some serious challenges that were never addressed. But I like a lot of Unity's implementations. I think it's great for learning, and it's great for those, of course, who are experienced, who are seasoned individuals who can just come in here and just kind of, just go with it. But then for those who are not as experienced like myself, who are just kind of getting into it and experimenting with it and having some fun with it, it's so good for learning. I like the visual stuff. I also like the programming stuff, but I just need to get to that point where in the project where I'm going to start using shaders, where I actually have a need for it. Like when I get into the pet combat system, I'm going to be doing some effects with some shaders, some particle effects, and probably some shader graph, some other stuff that I'm not sure yet. I have some conceptual ideas in my mind, but they're ideas I want to explore, and something that I want to learn. Doesn't seem as though I can use a material as the input for another material, so I'm making a workaround. Oh, okay. You can't use a material as the input for another material. Really? I have a very limited understanding, but just reading that, I would think you would, in theory, be able to use the material from one object and use it and apply it as a material to another. I don't know. But there's some weird stuff with Unity. I've come across some interesting bugs myself, especially the new input system. I'm not sure how to resolve certain things, or why, or maybe I'm the one who broke it. I don't know. But there's just some stuff where I'm sitting there scratching my head going, this should work. This should totally work. This should absolutely work. Why is this not working? Right? And I'm trying different things, and it's like, I don't get it. Right? Of course, I'll eventually figure it out. But something as simple as input, I don't know how I could potentially mess it up. I can't help but to think it's a Unity bug with the new input system. But if it's a Unity bug, why couldn't I find other people? Or maybe it's just the searches that I was doing were not giving me the results that I wanted. Why couldn't I find other people who were experiencing the same bug? It can't possibly be unique to me, right? Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. Just as I say Unity bug, here's one. So expanding 0, I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to do this. But what's happening is when I click on it, it puts it over top. So it's the way that it's displaying the formatting, something in there is just not working. That is so strange. That's the first time I've experienced this particular bug. But maybe if I just go away and come back, nope, same thing. Interesting. So index 0 is broken. Index 1 works. Index 2 works. 3 works. And 4 works. But 0, when I go to expand it, you can see they overlay on top of each other. That's new to me. I think I need to close and reopen Unity, honestly. Let's try going out of the object, and then I'll try going back into that prefab. What was it called? Emote bubble. Let's try this. Nope, still broken. Okay, so I will close Unity and I will reopen it, and hopefully that will fix it. Just like the magic Windows solution. Anytime Windows is doing something it's not supposed to be doing, just restart it. That seems to be the solution that works, like, I would say a good 60% of the time. I want to provide a set of materials, then use an RGB channel set to determine which materials are visible on which parts of the mesh. Okay. And then I get deeper into this project. I'm starting to think I might be the world's leading expert on some pretty niche things. Yeah. I think some of us, I don't think you're unique to that specifically. I think some of us have a rather interesting skill of coming across the limitations of a system while trying to make it do something that you want it to do. But I'm sure you'll eventually find your way, or at least find a workaround of some sort that will work for your project. Okay, index 0. Oh, wow. So index 0 is, wait, I closed it and I reopened it and it's still broken? How does that work? Huh. Okay. So index 1 works. Index 2 works. Index 3 works. Index 4 works, but index 0 doesn't. I just closed and reopened Unity. Okay. maybe it's the information that I copied and pasted into here. So let's go to this and just clear it all out. Let's clear it out. So 0. No entries. Entry, entry, entry. Okay, so index 0. Oh, wow. Really? It crashes. Well, okay, sorry. It doesn't crash. It doesn't work properly. That is so strange. But index 1 collapses and expands. There's no errors. That's got to be a Unity thing. That's not me. That can't be right. Because I'm taking it from a perfectly functioning project and bringing it in. I have used this throughout my project, have I not? Where have I used the property curve? Okay, it is used in a whack load of different locations. So let's go and see where else it's being used. Let's go with the game room bomb. Okay, so bomb has animation property curve. It has 2 entries. Second one works. First one does not. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is broken. But there's no error. There's no nothing. Pretty sure it's not supposed to do that. I never noticed it before. It's only doing this on Unity 2021.3.3 F1. Previously, I was using... What was I using before? I was using 2021.3.0 F1. Yeah, and then a couple of days ago, I updated to 2021.3.3 F1. Maybe it was doing it and I wasn't noticing it, but I would have noticed something like this. No, I would have noticed something like this because I remember using this functionality and bringing in some other assets. I absolutely was using it and it was working fine. So this is unique to Unity 2021.3.3 F1. Because if it was working before on the 0F1 and it was working on the 2021.2.18 F1 and it was working on a previous version and a previous one and another previous one, logical deduction would say that this is a Unity thing, which is really unfortunate because I need to access that. So that means I can't properly bring in those assets unless I go back to a 0F1 for the Unity version, which I am now considering. That's really unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. Because I updated to 3F1 because I was hoping it would resolve some other stuff. It didn't do that either. And then it introduced this bug. Okay. So that happened. think I need to revert back to 0f1. I mean, I don't have to do it now. I can just skip over this for now. As long as I'm aware of it, I think it's fine. And then I can, on the weekend when I got a bit more time, because if I revert back to a version, yeah, I don't want to deal with that right now. What I want to do is I want to, yeah. That's just how it is with development sometimes, I guess. You got to take the good with the bad. And that's okay. I mean, we all make mistakes when developing stuff, right? Like I make countless mistakes when programming and whatnot. I just didn't think something so obvious would slip through the cracks with the Unity IDE. Okay, so what I'll do is I will skim over that section for now, continue and move on. But then what I'll do is I'll look into it a bit more later, see if maybe it is something I did, which I doubt because I don't see any errors or anything like that. And I haven't touched it. I'm literally just bringing it in. If it's a Unity thing, then yeah, I'll revert back to 2021.3.0 F1. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay, let's move on. So back to the emote bubble. Emote bubble. So let's clear that out. And then I will copy and paste the values that are supposed to be in there. And of course, it's broken. That's fine. But there's no errors, so I'm going to skim over that. So now what we have is we have the prefab for the chat bubble, the prefab for the emote bubble, which is semi-broken. And then we have the model container. Model container. Okay, I'll need to bring in some of this stuff because there's some. Oh, right. No, there's definitely some more stuff I need to bring in. So I need to bring in the guild component. I'll need to bring in, what else do I need to bring in? So the guild component is another piece of it that just kind of shows the guild rank and the guild name. So everything guild that's displayed above the player character comes with the guild component, and it changes too based on your rank in the guild. Like if you're the owner, if you're a captain, if you're a regular member, or if you're a new player or a new member of the guild. So I need to bring that in. And then the name one is fine, I guess. Because it's just a canvas with TextMesh Pro in it. The model itself with an animation controller. I thought I changed that. Oh, right, I did. I'll need to bring in the, oh, right. I'll need to bring that in from the other project, from the 2.5D environment prototype where I remade this. How did that work? I need to see it. Let's open that up and have a look at the character model and how that works in the 2.5D environment prototype. that way I'll have a better understanding of how to restructure it if I need to within the new client that's kind of being worked on right now. Okay. Okay, so here's the 2.5D environment. Let's just run that real quick. Oh, shadows are not working? Really? Why are shadows not casting? Did I change something? I wonder. Yeah, I think that was it. Because I was looking at some of the settings. What was it? Yesterday, I think, and trying to figure some stuff out. Yeah, so I just had it on the wrong quality setting. Okay, so shadows are working. So there's our character model. Let's have a look at our character model. Okay. So character model, that looks fine. I will need to restructure some of this, of course. Oh, you provided a link. Okay. Let's see what that is. Oh, that's interesting. Cross mesh multi-material shader. I like the naming convention. So that's what you meant by using the material from one object and then applying it as a material to another. I'm going to assume that it's instantiating a new material or something along those lines. When you take it from one to apply it to the other, I'm not that familiar with 3D stuff and shaders. I'm still learning. Still learning. It lets you define multiple submaterials and combines them with a channel mask to allow you to put the same material on multiple meshes. That's interesting. I like those kind of experiments. There's a lot to learn there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when I get into that side of it for my project. And what's the use case, though? What do you plan on using it for? Because this is a conceptual use case scenario, but what would it what purpose does it serve in a project that you're looking to make, is my question. So you'd have to create a RGB mask specific to a given mesh, and then feed that to a material. But I could use the same material on multiple meshes. Okay. Skinning and customization, of course. So are we talking like environment props or character customization, like let's say a weapon or an outfit or an armor or a shield or something? I'm pretty sure this is how both EVE Online and Destiny 2 do their materials for things like character or ship customizations. I see. Okay. Interesting. I think it's pretty neat, actually. I like those kinds of things. How difficult was it to implement, though? And what are some of the challenges, I guess, that came with that solution? I'm pretty sure Destiny has a more robust submaterial. They do some pretty crazy stuff. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty safe assumption to make, especially when they got that kind of a budget for those huge AAA company games and whatnot. They spend a lot of time and resources on some pretty cool stuff that you don't ever really get to see how it's made under the hood. Like, I think even though there's a lot of games that I don't play, I would like to see a behind the scenes, like make like a hour and a half movie or a series of it, and just go through the highlights behind the scenes, some of the cool stuff that they made, some of the challenges and whatnot. I would watch that behind the scenes, like, they used to have on Discovery Channel how it's made, right? It's very oversimplification of something, but it was still really entertaining to see how things are made, right? Because we're all genuinely curious in how is something made, especially something that is in our day-to-day life, or a game that we like, or music, or painting, or whatever it may be, right? Honestly, this is my first shader graph project. That's okay. I like honesty. And to be honest, I haven't done anything like that yet. And I'm looking forward to it. So the whole thing was a challenge. Okay. So then it was a good challenge and a successful one at that, right? Destiny 1 2 is built on a fork of the Halo Reach engine. Interesting. I was not aware of that. Not even in the slightest. I don't follow that kind of tech stuff. It's not really something that I come across often with that kind of information. I think I need to bring in this model instead. Yeah, I think I need to bring this one in instead of the other one that I just brought in. So I'll need to backtrack a little bit, because I think this one uses the that shader that I so nicely, or someone really nicely put it on the internet as an excellent solution for my use case scenario. which is kind of the core of what allows me to put a sprite sheet and take that and make it into an animation onto a quad, so then it can be properly sorted in a 2.5D environment using the Z depth. Because initially I was trying to get a sprite to use Z depth, but you can't do that by default. You can go into the shader and modify it so it uses Z depth, but then you're modifying that shader or a piece of it for it to use Z depth, because sprites don't use Z. They use X and Y, right, for sorting. So that was one solution. The other was to find another to get an animation to be displayed on a quad. And I happened to come across this one solution that this individual very conveniently managed to put up. That was a pretty good solution, actually. It was simple and elegant, and it didn't do any of the extra fluff. So it was pretty good. And that's the one that I'm using now. And I like it. It's a good solution. It's likely something similar to what will end up being what I will end up using in the end. But excuse me. At this time, I think it's a really good solution. And I'll likely have to change it to some degree later on, but for now, I don't see a need for that. Wow, I'm just having difficulties focusing. It's been a long day. I thought they used the hierarchy for sorting. You mean for sprites? You mean the sorting order? You can, but that's if we're talking about the same thing. The challenge that I came up with was that when you take something that uses sort order or uses the Y position to sort, which is what I was using before, as soon as you bring it into a 3D environment, it doesn't sort. It does not sort, because in a 3D environment, you have to use Z. You have to use the Z depth buffer or whatever it's called for it to do that check to say this is in front of this is behind this is in front of these, or these is in between these two. So that's when I had to go look for a solution, and I went on this wild hunt and eventually came up with a couple of solutions that were not great, didn't really work for what I needed it for, until I came across this one solution with this guy. I forget. What was it called? Oh, okay. Well, that'll take a while to open. But I got it off, I think it was a YouTube video of this guy. He implemented this solution. I wonder if I kept that link. Did I keep the... No, I didn't keep the YouTube link. But he did a great explanation, and he used a shader and a sprite sheet. And the way that it works is that the shader just basically looks at which quadrant or cell, if you want to look at it, on the sprite sheet should be displayed, and that's the one that it plays. And it kind of rotates through those either horizontally or vertically, and it just clips out or culls out everything else. So it's really performant too, and I thought it was a good idea. And it happened to be the one idea I came across that was a good fit for my project. Let's see. I should have the shader reference. There we go. So this was all this guy's solution. None of this is me. I don't know how well you can see that, but so it's a simplistic kind of solution of sorts, but it works really well for my use case. And I don't know how to build this stuff out yet myself. So it's something that I want to learn more of. And eventually I'll get there. It'll just take a while. For right now, I really like the videos that others put up onto YouTube and the stuff that they put up in terms of their search for a solution of some sort or workaround of some sort that that works well, or works to serve a specific purpose, should I say? Because those things are really helpful for other guys such as myself who are kind of like getting into it. Because I can't go in just and just throw something like this together without having a base knowledge of how and why some things behave the way that they do. I need some time to experiment with it. I need some time to learn through trial and error. And then once I got the core foundational stuff, then I can start building up on it and make more and more complex and intricate things. It just takes a little while. That's all. But yeah, so I for sure see myself being able to make this kind of stuff in the future when I get to it. But this is one of the really cool things about shader graph, really. I think it's a very powerful tool. I do. I think Unity, I know Unreal also has it, and the other engines also have a similar thing. But I just think it's nice to be able to visualize these things and be able to just use nodes and just connect them up. It's pretty cool. Anyway, that's what allows the character to have the walking animation, multi-directional, and any other type of animation that I want to throw in there as well. I can make it work. So this walking animation is using that, and what it's doing is it's using the that shader graph to make this, and that's being derived from there should be a character model sprite sheet somewhere in here. Anyway, you get the idea of it conceptually. But yeah, so it's really cool being able to use that. And the same thing is being used for all of the environment pieces too. All of these 2D quads that you see, they're using the same thing. Which the advantage of doing it this way is that what you don't see, and this is one of the really cool things, is that every single 2D flat object is an animation. But I just don't have animations. So that really opens up a lot of things in terms of things you can do. Because it's pretty performant. I mean, sure, it's not going to run well on a potato, right? But on a low-end device, on a modern low-end device, it can run when it's optimized. I believe it can run at 60 frames per second. So you could have like really cool animations that are built into like a sprite sheet, and then you're just swapping out the sprite sheet. And initially I was thinking of doing a lot of these things, and I had the walk animation when I was doing it in 2D in this version of it, right? This is using the Unity animator, and I used animator overrides, which is cool and it's very powerful, but I don't want to make animations for every single direction, for every single action, for every single character or pet or creature, for all directions, everything. I just want to be able to swap sprite sheets out, right? And I know in Unity there was a solution that was provided that was not a great solution, but it kind of does the same thing, and that you can do one full complete set of animations and all of that using the Unity animator. And then what you can do is you can go in and use, what is it, late update or whatever, and it can swap the individual sprites to match a specific structuring of another sprite sheet, right? So then you're doubling up the memory usage and the calculation though. So it's not really performant, but it gets you results, which is what I was using in another prototype that I did. But I don't want to go with that. I just want to have a sprite sheet. I want to provide a sprite sheet and say, here's this row is always going to be this animation. This row is always going to be this. This row is always going to be this, right? And then I can just swap out the sprite sheets. That's exactly what I want to do. I don't want to have any super over the top complex. And in terms of the control system of having a I forget the term for it, but having a system of controlling direction, which action to perform, and that stuff, I can just build that myself. It's not going to be overly complex because it's going to be 4 directions standing, 4 directions walking, 4 directions jumping or falling, and 4 directions KO, 4 directions on the ground. That's it. Done. Right? Maybe even add 4 directions kneeling or something like that, but it's not overly complex, right? You can figure it out once you follow a certain logical structure on a sprite sheet, and then just consistently use that format throughout the whole project. It works just fine. But I really like that it's an animation. I like that because I want to be able to do something like, let's say, because I don't want to do particle effects for everything. Some things I want to be an animation. Like, let's say you wanted to do some kind of animated windmill, as an example, or something, or you wanted to do a grass wind animation, but you don't want to build it into like manipulating the what do you call it, the texture, or no, not the texture, manipulating the mesh, sorry. You don't want to manipulate the mesh or any other type of solution of that sort, or using something like a shader that would create like a wave pattern of some sort. You can just build it into the sprite. Right? Of course, it's not a perfect solve all solutions. I just thought it was really neat because then maybe I do want to have in some scenarios like an animation of, let's say, a crystal breaking, or a wall being destroyed, or a door opening, right? All of that could be built into the sprite sheet, and it could be whatever animation you want to build into it. And you can just swap them out, which is what I really like. Because I don't want to do animations. I don't want to do timeline keyframe animations. Those are very time consuming. And I've done it before. And I don't want to spend days and days and days and weeks and months doing that. It's just not a good use of my time. For me, for this particular project, I just want to use sprite sheets. I want to use sprite sheets. I want to take those sprite sheets and maybe put them into an atlas of some sort to give it that much more performance optimization later on down the line. And that's what I think will work well for my project, for this project. Anyway, I think I'm kind of burnt out for today. Um, I don't think I'm realistically going to be very productive at this point. We're many days, or sorry, many days. We're many hours into the day where my logical structure just, or my logical solution thinking just isn't what it normally is. So I think some good rest is exactly what I need. And then I can come back to it and pick it up tomorrow and start continuing pretty much where I got it to right now. I think we did okay for today. Figured some stuff out, thought about some more stuff. I'm gonna need to backtrack on the character model prefab that I want to bring in. I'm going to need to backtrack it just a couple of steps and then implement an appropriate solution for that. I'll need to consider some other things as well that I know I'm not looking at the big picture well enough at this specific hour. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. But yeah, so I think that's going to be it for me today. If you're interested, of course, hit that follow button. I broadcast on Tuesdays and on Fridays. I'm pretty consistent with my time. You can watch it on YouTube or Twitch. It doesn't matter. I multicast onto both. And if you happen to miss anything, or if you want to watch any of the previous stuff and just skim through it, they're indexed on YouTube. And you'll see the videos up there pretty consistently. There is a bit of a gap there, but I do have a fair bit of videos on there. They're all of me working on this project for quite some time, and the progress of it from where it was before to where it is now is pretty significant. But there's still a long ways to go, of course. And my goal right now is to get it to be a playable alpha prototype that I can do a build on that will work on Android, Windows, Linux, Mac, OS X, iOS, whatever. Anything Unity can pretty much build to. But yeah, so that's going to be it for me today. So thank you for watching. Thank you for coming and hanging out and watching me work on the project. And have a great evening. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you next time. Bye.